my love of the colour mustard. Which, like this throw, laying on a throw that I got from Adairs for $30 because I'm a member, so there was a bit of a discount. But isn't it a beautiful colour? And then this mustard shirt. I don't usually wear this, I'm literally wearing it so I blend in nicely with the mustard throw. I was like, well, that's a bit of a coinky dink. It's a bit serendipitous. Yeah, I get a lot of sweat patches, so I don't really wear it ever, just because, I mean, nobody likes sweat patches. It makes me look buff, but if people knew how much I really sweat, it'd be in the news. Anyway, it's enough about me sweating. Put a jacket on because I'm cold. I don't think I've acknowledged how creepy it is that everyone's in a mask, actually, even doing normal things. Ooh, I feel less comfortable here now. It's very like, can you even read out of that? And how you eat out of that? You have an apple. You don't have a mouth hole. I have questions. Okay, so it's definitely a cult, hey? What, were you used to be a school teacher or something and now you're here? Candlelight? Tell me candlelight, now when did you last let your heart decide? I'm 3 inches away from joining this cult. If you know what I mean. Like, my purpose right now is to be single, and I actually really do love being single and having my own place and just being able to, I can just get up at 3 AM, have a shower, do a little singing to myself very quietly. I still have neighbours, and I do believe in respecting your neighbours. And it's just such a perfect opportunity in this climate to take the time to think about what you really want in life, you know, maybe slow the brakes down a little bit, because I don't think we have to go this fast all the time. So, in summary, I do like being single, but I'm a little bit lonely. But I do thoroughly believe you grow through pain, so I have learnt to appreciate pain. And I'm not always in pain, Jesus, I'm okay. Just on those extra lonely nights, you just sort of like have a shower, sit down, make it steamy, make it nice, get comfortable, put some like candle on, put like meditation music on. I'm not crying, honestly, it's just my moisturizer in my eyes, but I'm not getting emotional right now. The nights where I cry in the shower. But just, yeah, obviously, like, everyone gets super lonely, super anxious, super insecure. Like, it happens. It's not something that's wrong with you or me. It's just a very human, natural thing. I think once you separate that from who you truly are and just understand that there are phases, and without those you can't appreciate, you know, the contrasting emotions like happiness, joy. If you were always happy, you wouldn't be happy, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, you know, you need ebbs and flows in life, and you just treat the ebbs, you just treat the troughs, you just treat the low points, you just treat the rough seas when you're on the ship out at sea and it's rough and there's thunder and lightning and you're scared of the ocean and don't want to drown and there's sharks, no one can come save you or rescue you. Do I have a beacon? Do I have a, what are those guns called? The fire guns? I don't have one of them, but you know what I mean? Like, just do what you got to do to get through it and just take that as a learning opportunity. It also makes you be able to relate to other people's pain and stuff, so that's a little mental coping mechanism that I can instill upon anyone, is to analyze those emotions, feelings, de-identify with them, be non-judgmental of them, appreciate them more in the fact that, wow, my brain does some interesting shit. It's a brain that definitely isn't built for this world with all this technology and stuff. And that's why it sort of breeds and so easily falls into anxiety, because our brains are planners, like to plan, and they're not risk takers but risk assessors in terms of, you know, has this worked in the past, will it work in the future? And because we have so many avenues for fear now and exposure and all that kind of stuff, and the way that social media has sort of made us develop two identities, we're living in two worlds, and I think that clash really impacts on our own ability to identify. So I actually got rid of Instagram and Facebook, like the apps, like 5 years ago. They're not on my phone, but I don't scroll. Anytime, like, I scroll on Reddit, okay? I use Reddit to get rid of all those addictions 5 years ago, and I still like it because I'm anonymous and it has the news and stuff, and then I can just zone out. It's not personal or anything, and it's not just all about people and the selective lives that people are uploading and stuff, sort of cherry picking the data from lives, which then makes these two worlds really warped when next to each other. It's just like you got one world that isn't so realistic, and then the real world, but we're putting more emphasis on our identities for this, you know, non-real world, and therefore living in the real world becomes harder because we're not seeing the same things. Like, you know, once you take away a screen, like things the color changes, the filters change, people are screaming, there's babies pooping, there's fire, there's war, there's internal battles, there's tears, there's lonely people that cry on the bathroom floor in the shower sometimes. Yeah, the point of all that is that we all get lonely, we all get anxious, whatever. I don't think it ever goes away, no matter how successful you get or whatever. Like, I think you just learn to deal with it better, and you just build better coping mechanisms, and if you focus on strengthening those things, like through mindfulness and like self-evaluation, but also being non-judgmental. That's the key to all this, because if you're judgmental, then you'll spin yourself into more hatred about yourself. You know, what's wrong with me? It's not you, it's your brain, okay? Study what your brain's doing, what its triggers are, and then realize that it's not you, but we have to like get the leash on it, and it just takes time and coping mechanisms and mindfulness, and then you get to a point where you can just sort of chill. You know, life's not always up, and it's not always meant to be up. But if I want it to be up one day, then I need to make progress, whether mentally, like by charging my batteries and stuff and getting myself ready to actually make physical progress, or thinking about the future, planning for the future and stuff, and just like, you know, I've still got 24 hours, the same amount in a day, but you know, when I don't feel like doing anything, absolutely anything, then I'm like, I can still do something like this. Like I can play Elder Scrolls and make a YouTube video. Like this is like, and I'm mentally recharging my batteries because I've had a very hard year, as we all have. But the end of mine has been particularly unique, and I've just gone through some very weird life changes, so that's okay. It's all like, I like change because like I'm not in the place I want to be, and the only way to get there is to change. I still have not made it to the city. Sorry, this is just a complete vlog. But yeah, use pain for growth. You know, pain's gonna happen, so you may as well put it into use. It's energy. And I'm not one who's like into crystals. I think I know why I haven't gotten to the place that I really want to go, because I keep going in, like I set the waypoint, go in circles, and I just keep talking and forget. And like I've been up here like 4 times, I'm sure of it. So I am trying to get there, but I'm just going in circles. But my brain isn't making it past the point of, oh, there's a wall there, and you can't get over the wall that way. You need to find another way. I think if I just leave the city. But yeah, I'm not into like crystals or that kind of energy. But pain is, you know, you feel that sort of visceral like energy from it, whether it's, you know, anger that manifests from that or something, but you can put that into work. And if you find something that is creative, creatively stimulates you and makes you feel, I don't know, like you fall into a flow, a sort of mindfulness, a sort of mindlessness, which is mindfulness.
Enough, Silery.
Okay, I'm nearly done. What matters is your attitude in those hard moments, and then you can relax when the good moments inevitably do come, because life is a roller coaster. And I swear to God, every time I'm at my lowest, I don't know, as long as I put trust in the universe, usually something, it always works out. You know, I could die tomorrow, so life isn't worth sort of stressing about future things that I can stress about when they're actually happening. You know, actually use stress for when stress is necessary. Less preparation is usually the best key. That's what I found. This is so, so lovely. This is like the Chinese Garden of Friendship in Sydney in Darling Harbour. Oh my God. So when you're at your highest points in life, and then sometimes you just fall and you hit rock bottom after rock bottom after rock bottom, how can I possibly get any lower? Oh, you can, but then you just sort of, you chill with it. You just sort of relax and you flow and see where life takes you, and just like take care of yourself as much as you can in those moments. Eat ice cream if you must, just do what you can. And you flow and flow, and eventually the water comes back around, whether through evaporation into the sky and raining, or if there's something joining back up to there, or maybe it goes over to the ocean, comes back. The point is, it comes back and then you hit a high again. And, you know, the distance between your rocks and rock bottoms and how long you spend in this pool, it's all variable, and then like you can change all that with a bit of mindfulness as well. You can help yourself through and maybe realize that life is more constant, and just treat life as a more constant. Just be content with being content. Anyway, it's all easier said than done, whatever. The point is that you do it as much as possible. I think it's really important to have hobbies and things that are just for you in a way, that make you feel creative, inspired, that make you feel smart, talented, that make you feel like you do have a place and that you do have a strength. We absolutely all have strengths. It is impossible not to have strengths. It's just about finding your strengths and realizing that you are allowed to have strengths, and we all have strengths, and that insecurity you feel, that imposter syndrome you feel when you think, no, I couldn't possibly be funny, or I couldn't possibly be entertaining, or anything like that. That is just your brain always preparing for the worst, because that is what made us survive so long ago and for so long. Worrying about having a car crash is definitely going to make you a safer driver, but worrying too much about having a car crash makes you more likely to have a car crash, you know what I mean? Because you're more paranoid, and you're going to like third question every decision that you make. So, yeah, you're going to second guess or third guess every decision, and therefore like other people can't trust your decisions on the road, cause accidents. So you know what I mean? Like you're sort of going to rein in that anxiety anxiety. But the point is that having hobbies and things to build your own identity, and like getting off socials as much as possible to find your identity in real life, because real life is actually what matters. You can absolutely complement it with social media and stuff, but realize, like, just judge how much we're on our phones. I'm on my phone a lot, but like I'm usually painfully aware that I'm on my phone every time I'm on my phone, or I'm just like, what's fun in the real world that I can do, or something that makes me feel creative. And also, yeah, it gets me out of the online world. And oh my god, what the fuck is that? You know, it's why I do YouTube videos and stuff and do the coding in the apps and that, even though I have a full-time job. It's very demanding and stuff. And you know, the stress of living by myself in Sydney and paying a lot of rent, but that's okay, I chose it because it inspired me, it made me feel good, which I think is more important than money. I think that's the reason for money, really. I want to earn money so that my life outside of work is really good, so it can at least balance out the fact that you have to work so much in life. But yeah, that's why I still maintain doing YouTube and all that kind of stuff, but I make it like fun, like it's a good little hobby and a thing that I can improve it. This is just so absolutely stunning. Nothing quite stops me talking like nature. That is just so absolutely gorgeous. I don't know, life's difficult, but I find that if you just keep working on yourself, always keeping in mind that you absolutely can and will improve if you do. Sometimes things take longer than it feels like they should. Sometimes it feels like things aren't working, but you keep it up, those mental mindfulness, the positives, all that kind of shit. Just like, and always know that it can get better, and it's going to take a little bit of work, and you just find where you want to put that work.
As I have said, the Proxy Queen is unable to hold an audience with petitioners at this time.
Well, that's unfortunate, because I just came to give a mental health talk. What do? We swim, swim, and do. That whole life begins outside your comfort zone shit. It's pretty true, actually. And a lot of those things you read and hear throughout your entire life, and you're like, well, yeah, it makes sense. But like actually doing it's way harder, and having those epiphanies need to come naturally, I think. It's like you have epiphanies in life, and then those things mean, those phrases mean a lot more and have a lot more weight because you understand it at a visceral, like, you know, your own understanding level. Like, for example, aging and stuff. Like, I look at aging now as just like every single year, every single second is a blessing. Because so many people don't have their lives that wanted to be here, you know what I mean? And here I am playing Elder Scrolls Online in bed, not taking advantage of it outside, talking about like getting out into the real. But this is different. This is, I'm making something productive, and I'm doing work, you know, being creative, and also recharging my batteries. But I truly, truly believe that every year is a blessing. And like, you know, before my mum passed away, I never would have looked at that phrase in the same way. I would have taken it for granted, taken life for granted, but it always reminds me of how truly, truly special and wonderful it is. And even when it doesn't feel that way, that it always, always can again, if I just put the work in and just figure out why I'm feeling certain ways and how to improve on that and what steps do I need to take. But you've got to be able to sit in pain and sit in anxiety, because it doesn't happen instantly. You just have to trust that it won't always be forever, and go in blind. Put some trust in the universe, have a bit of fun, you know. I could walk outside to go get some bread and butter and be hit by a truck, and then I would be like, oh, why was I worried about the pimple on my face yesterday? Every year was a blessing. Mind you, it is insanely hard to like have these thoughts all the time, like have these coping mechanisms always be at the forefront of your brain. So also like allowing yourself to be human and allowing your brain to sometimes, like understanding your brain does take over sometimes, and you just don't have the strength to fight it, but it's more that you just listen less, or just, you know, you have your own internal shield, you know. It's like, I know what you're doing, and you're doing it a lot more right now because I'm tired, mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted. I just went through a breakup, something like that, but I know what you're doing, brain. And even though it still hurts and still feels real and I still believe it, I choose not to. And every single time that I choose not to, I get closer and closer to actually knowing that it's not true, because I show myself and I prove to myself that it wasn't, and there was never a need to worry. So yeah, you gotta prove shit to yourself. But it comes by being outside your comfort zone. And that is a very, very good piece of advice. So that came around really nicely. I forgot that I even started that topic, but like, yeah, I was talking about being outside your comfort zone. You know, that anxiety and stuff you feel, it's usually just excitement, but change, and like, you get anxiety when you're doing something you haven't done before because you don't know what's going to happen, and every single possibility imaginable. Like even with these streaming videos, it's like absolutely easy to just like, I procrastinate and I walk around and I clean, and like the place looks beautiful right now because I just have not wanted to stream because I just get anxiety sometimes about it. But then it's like, you're being stupid, just sit down and start. But I say that to myself about 40 times before I actually do it, but the point is that I actually do get to the point where I do it instead of backing away and letting my insecurities win. I never let them win. I can almost see you, that dream I'm dreaming, but it's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. It's a climb. It's a climb. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I said it. Yeah. I said it. I said it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But life just changes. It always changes. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. But just like this tree that's receiving nearly no sunlight, you can always find some sunlight and find out how to thrive from it. Even though there are other parts that are just darkness. Every breath is a blessing. You'll be thankful and wishing for every single breath that you once had when you're at the point that you can't have it anymore. You know what I mean? That's a very hard, deep thought and a painful one to know that we'll die, but I think thinking and appreciating death in that way, it makes you appreciate, you know, mortality, and it makes you appreciate what we've got right now. So death is always a good way to scare people into doing shit. Do your mindfulness. Turns out this is definitely more of a vlog and I'm just wandering around with no purpose and Elder Scrolls, but I think it's a good background for it all. I love walking around, seeing all the trees and being in a fantasy world, hearing the rushing water. Isn't that just lovely? It's like a canal. You know, it's just about finding beauty in anywhere. I think being aware of the fact that like not being anxious and not stressing is uncomfortable. The thing I'm thinking about is when I gave a presentation in front of 100 doctors once for my job, and I had to do this whole presentation and everything had to be so accurate because doctors and scientists are so, they're just lots of scrutinization, and you know, science are very particular, so you gotta say the right things. Anyway, so I was getting up in front of everyone and I remember sitting in the audience and it was like 3 speakers until I was speaking and then 2 speakers and 1 speaker, and I was just like, this is such a good moment because I am at such a height of anxiety and stress right now. Just to think about mindfulness, and I was like, the thing I can at least do is focus on what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, as if I was observing my brain from far away. You know, sit there and observe my brain and its thoughts and my behaviors and stuff and why it was triggering. I don't know, the more I sort of tried not to be anxious and I'd think about like sounds and focus on them and really put energy into it, and I did start, like I'd feel comfortable at some points, like, you know, this isn't the end of the world. I'm literally going to get up in 5 minutes, it's going to be over. It's probably all going to go fine, like they always go fine, like even your worst stuff is usually okay. And at the end of the day, I'm a human too. Like I've seen people get up today that make mistakes, and like to me it was nothing. It was just like, oh, good on you, keep going, whatever. But to them or to you, when you're doing it, it just feels like the world's collapsing. I'm going to do a good job, I'm going to kill it, and if I don't, well then I'll face that later. But the possibility, that hasn't happened, so why am I so stressed about it happening? You know, if it happens, I'm going to stress about it afterwards, so then I would have stressed about it before, during and afterwards, and stressing about it before probably led to me doing it. So yeah, it's more just like being aware in those moments, and also that, like, you know, when you aren't stressing, it does feel uncomfortable, which, you know, in a way is really fucked up. So learning to be uncomfortable by not stressing, and then eventually it does sort of feel more normal, and you're just like, why did I ever for my entire life stress so much? This is really like putting energy into it and doing it every day for months, and it sounds like a long time, but you know, you're living your life anyway. Life is ticking along. You may as well be doing mindfulness and stuff. Like every time you remember, anytime you feel anxiety, stress, you're triggered, something doesn't feel right, just use that as a trigger in itself to be like, oh, why am I feeling like this? Like, let's go backward. And then usually if you sort of delve through your brain for a little bit, you do get to a point where you can find sort of the root triggers for that and sort of justify your way out of them by going, that isn't rational. But I think it does take that sort of retrospective investigation, you know, following your neural paths and just sort of like thinking your way out of anxiety in a way that's like, copyright. That's how I like to think of it. Like, instead of, you know, a lot of people, and like the conception is that you think your way into anxiety, and you absolutely can when you are being judgmental of those thoughts and of yourself. And when you sort of make that disconnect between what your brain's doing and who you are, it's much more liberating because they're not the same thing. You know, your brain is doing so much stuff subconsciously and behind the scenes and controlling so much of what you're doing in your body. And there's even some cool consciousness theories and papers out there on that we don't actually have like free will as much as it feels like we do. Like our brain does make a signal before we think that we thought about the action. There was this cool book that I Anyway, it's really fucked up and interesting, and like obviously like I'm not going to debate about free will or anything, but consciousness is really cool, brains are really cool. But yeah, making that disconnect, then you can just sort of be like, my brain is like fucking me over today, like so much insecurities and stuff, and it's just hounding me. Like, am I ignoring something? What does it want me to recognize? Like, why is it trying to plan and stress so much? Also realizing that the amount that it stresses is so not natural, and we do not have mechanisms built in to sort of combat its misunderstanding of this world that we're in, this technology era. It hasn't evolved as fast as we have evolved. So your brain thinks it's doing all the right things, and it would be for the environment that it was built specifically for. So I think also, yeah, having a disconnect from social media and disconnect from the online world is extremely important, because you need to build your identity in this world and then complement your life with social media and stuff. And if you find that it's an addiction that's incredibly hard to break, then you need to sort of be real and be like, what am I not doing? Why am I ignoring things in life? Why am I sort of deferring to this or deferring to drugs or whatever? There can be a nice balance of everything. Drugs and social media. I think something that really helped me was just making fun of myself more, and just like building an identity around the fact that I am fallible and that I do make mistakes, and turning my mistakes and stuff rather from, you know, insecurities and things that are wrong with me, and I wasn't perfect in a way, or I fucked up at work, or I said the wrong thing, or I made someone uncomfortable, or I tripped over in the street and it was really uncomfortable. Like all that stuff, if you can look at it and be like, got him a ditz, got him a klutz, or whatever, just in everything in life, like I find that has really helped me, and that's why I sort of just make jokes and go into my own fantasy world and laugh about things and just don't take things too seriously, because like we're not meant to be perfect. Like nothing in this world is meant to be perfect. Like sort of understanding that I'm a different person every single day. Like every single day, like I think that I can think enough to the point that I know myself, and then I'll be comfortable with myself and I'll have an identity and all that kind of stuff. But I really think it's more your convictions and how you feel in the world and stuff, and the security that you gain from your experiences, and you know, all that kind of stuff that you've accumulated over your life. I think that stuff sort of builds the confidence in that. But you are a different person every day. You know, I can't base my confidence and identity around being funny or whatever, because there's a lot of days that I don't feel funny. And you know, a lot of times people expect me to be funny, like, and like, what's wrong if I'm not? I'm just in a shit mood or whatever. And I'm like, it's fine, I'm just not in a good mood. And you know, I used to then try and compensate for that, because I was insecure that like my identity was just being stripped for, like everyone was just going to think I was just gloomy from then on. It's just so much more complicated than that, and it was just so much more comfortable for me just to be real, just like in any single moment. How can you ever blame me for just, you know, being how I'm feeling, as long as it's within reason? I'm not smashing up windows and tables and like shanking people, whatever, in the living room. I don't know what else to say. It's just okay to be human, you know? It's okay to not be super exciting before, and that's one of the reasons I do procrastinate and not make videos a lot, is because I get insecure. Like I'm not as funny as I used to be 6 months ago or whatever. But I'm always changing. How can I ever compare myself to 6 months ago? So much has happened in 6 months, and maybe this is the person I'm meant to be. Have I given this version of me a try? Like maybe I'm not as crazy, but maybe being too crazy is too much, or like maybe I'm just, you know, just cynical. The more shit I realize the world is, which is just the reality of the world. It is pretty shit, but like I think I just go more into this whole like, well, if it's shit, I'm gonna make it good for me. I'm gonna pretend that I'm this high elf and this girl's looking out over this gorgeous beach. Look at those blues. Those are some gorgeous blues. Definitely getting like Australia vibes here. Like I've seen some, like Jervis Bay. That looks like Jervis Bay. Maybe not the waterfall. But yeah, those are just some of my coping mechanism strategies. It's just like, I could talk forever about mental health, because like I think I enjoy it so much is because once I realized that I could sort of fuck with my brain a little bit, and just like, you know, in those moments where I'm feeling super anxious or nervous, whatever, just studying myself, and just the more I tried, the better I got. And now it just happens sort of naturally when I'm anxious. I'm just like, oh, I need to think for a second, like, why am I anxious? Like, should I be anxious right now? No? Okay, well, why am I feeling anxious? And what can I do to try and at least mitigate it, if not get rid of it? But then understanding that even if I don't get rid of it, I'm understanding more about my body and how it works. So it's just always a win-win. And your brain is like quite malleable, and you can sort of unwire and unwind some of those deep connections, or at least have offshoots of new neurons leading to a more positive section of your brain. Like that's like very, very surface level, tip of the iceberg, sort of the science of it. But that's sort of like cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that, CBT, which has a remission rate much much better than like antidepressants. Not much better, but like just as good. And antidepressants, I'm not saying they're bad at all. I'm on antidepressants. They're amazing. Some people just have imbalances, you know, it's a genetic thing or whatever. It can also be like this epigenetic thing. That's where you have the genes, but they're not switched on, but then something triggers them to switch on, like a major trauma or PTSD or just something, age, switch things on. Like things just change. Antidepressants are actually another really cool chemical. The things that they do. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. So yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy, when they're put in conjunction with each other to treat depression, have incredible efficacy. But CBT is just as good as antidepressants, at least in some of the studies I did a paper on it, not a paper, an essay, like a really long essay. But that's all about, you know, rewiring your brain, and that all sounds so pseudoscience. It's like rewire your brain, but like with enough practice and doing the correct things, you know, like taking advantage of our reward systems and stuff and using that knowledge or techniques for good instead of just for scrolling on Facebook to take advantage of our dopamine feedback system, like poker. Oh, will I get it this time? Am I going to get a good one this time? This notification? Our brain loves shit like that. You know, there are times where you need to absolutely switch off and be thoughtless, which is like mindfulness. For me, I just think of mindfulness as like, you know, absent of thought, pretty much. Because once you stop thinking, there's nothing to sort of have anxiety or whatever about. Like, and it's extremely hard to not think, because like once you try to stop thinking, that is when you realize how fucking much your brain will just not quit. It's like, no, you need to plan. There are so many threats everywhere, and if you want to survive in this world and stuff, and you know, it's social suicide to do this, and why are you posting on YouTube? Isn't that embarrassing? All the kind of, it just goes on forever, and it's just like, well, I'm having fun, and like, why can I not have fun right now, man? But it's just, it doesn't know what it's doing. So that's why a lot of people try and do meditation and mindfulness, and they don't think it's working because it just doesn't feel right, it feels too hard. Like, that's all normal. You just got to keep doing it. Even if you stop thinking for 5 seconds. For me, I just think of static. Like internally, I just like pick a sound how my footsteps feel on the pavement. But I'll just pick a sound, usually static or like running water, if there's running water nearby. And just as hard as you can, it does take energy, as hard as you can, just focus on it. And anytime you feel another thought come in, or you feel yourself like stray to another thought, which happens so easily, and then you'll realize that, oh shit, I started thinking 5 minutes ago and didn't even realize. And you're like, I'm feeling anxious again. Yeah, that happens so easily. You just have to take yourself back and not be judgmental of all that. Just realize that, you know, things are just happening normally. You're just understanding how your brain's actually working. And oh my God, I don't want to be here. 4.2 million. Fuck. This is what happens when I just walk around mindlessly and I'm just like, I don't know where I'm going. But yeah, the beauty is that you can do mindfulness or whatever you want to call it. You can do it anywhere. So sometimes like I'll eat dinner and just put a podcast on, and not a TV, because I feel like sometimes the TV makes me feel more exhausted because it's just so much visual stimuli. And I've found like a nice peace with putting Hamish and Annie podcast on and like eating my dinner, and just, it feels so weird at first, like sitting down eating dinner and there's just nothing, it's just me in my lounge room and no TV. But by the end, you just feel so much more relaxed. And I don't know, I think little things like that, I like to mentally think about it as putting boundaries on my thoughts, depending on what I'm in the mood to think about. If I need to think about the big things in life or make big decisions, then I will allow platinum. If there's boundary, like if I'm in the bathroom and I want to just be completely mindful and stop thinking about stuff, I'm like, okay, I can only think about things that are in this bathroom. So then I can sort of fall into that and just think about the water. And anytime I think about work or something, I'm like, that's not in the bathroom, you know, whatever. And like, at least knowing that if I do need to think about that, hey, I can at least think about that when I leave the bathroom. Like right now, right here, you don't need to be thinking about that, even though it's stressing you out or whatever. You can just like put those boundaries on and just be like, no, in the bathroom, or only in the bathroom. So that's what I mean by like fucking with your brain a little bit. Like you just keep trying different mechanisms and triggers and stuff like that, and see what works with your brain. Everyone has like unique triggers or whatever to get to a place where it's like, like an epiphany or understanding, or at least, the less anxiety. I mean, like I feel like my basal anxiety and everything has gone way down. It's still there, and I think for the rest of my life I'm going to be anxious and nervous. I think I think to get rid of them you have to be like a sociopath or something. I mean, they're warnings, like they're good. Like if I'm in the forest with a bear, like I want to panic and have anxiety and be stressed because that's going to push me to survive. I don't know how much chance I'll have to survive, but at least I have the benefit of adrenaline to make me into a slightly better human than I already am, because I know in this state I'm definitely not outrunning a bear or anything like that. But yeah, in moments when I'm feeling particularly anxious, and usually I'll catch myself 2 hours into like just this thought cycle, and then I'll be like, oh shit, what am I doing? Like I'm letting my brain sort of win this fight here. And once you realize, then you're like, okay, now I can at least try and unthink this, like why is this happening? And if you can't stop it, then at least you're just like, well, okay, this is just a thing that happens, just like sometimes rain falls from the sky and I just need to wait for it to stop. And just be patient with myself, and these are the moments that I give myself the most love. I eat a lot of ice cream, get some pizza, some Uber Eats, I play Elder Scrolls, like I'll let my body sort of figure it out and stuff, and just be non-judgmental, because if I'm sad and I'm sad that I'm sad, I'm just going to be sad squared. So it's more like, okay, I'm sad right now, well, what can I do to sort of feel better and stuff until this passes, or maybe I can start planning like next week and some things that I want to do like to make me feel better, or maybe I'll force myself to go to the gym because I know the endorphin's going to be good, or instead I'll go on a nature walk maybe, like I did that the other day. I haven't been going to the gym much for some like there's a few other more complicated reasons, but not me or my bones or my health, I'm fine. I can't, well, I don't know if I have cancer, maybe. But I was like, okay, well, at least I can go on a nature walk, put some like Lord of the Rings fantasy music on, and just like there's a beautiful nature strip just down the road, so I went on that, and then I felt so much better afterwards, and I ate half a kilo of cherries, and I had a really nice sleep. And I don't know, just giving myself those moments and not oh, there's that really bad bit again. I don't know, all that, just that awareness and recognition to myself of my anxiety and how I want to help myself with it. That's like self-love to me in a way. Like, you make those decisions, you know, for you and what's best for you. And to think that you can't improve or change or be a completely different person to who you are now is just wrong. And that thought is so exciting to me, because even if I make mistakes and fuck up, which I will, I know that I can grow. And the more genuine you sort of do that and stuff, people believe, well, they don't judge you based on those mistakes. And I don't know, it's weird. The more you become you and stop caring as much, as long as you're a good person. I mean, if you stop caring and you're an asshole, then you've got some other things to work out, and you should be introspective to realize that yourself, or at least listen to the people telling you are. I don't know, it's a fine balance. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, whether you are an asshole or the people around you are just saying you're an asshole, or maybe you need better friends, like there's lots of like complexities with that just I could go into forever. But, you know, if you were just aiming to be the best human you can be, for me, it's just keep it simple. Just treat everyone with respect, which, you know, I do, because I feel like everyone's got pain regardless. Like, you know, there's once again a fine line between being arrogant and cocky and thinking you're king shit and all that. And yeah, but it's all levels, and we all learn in time. And as long as you keep aiming to be the best person you can be, how can anyone ever be mad? Because we all make mistakes. If you get mad at my mistake, well, what about your mistakes? You know, I'll never be perfect. I don't want to be perfect, but I'll never stop trying to get there. What's that? Where's that singing coming from? My lady? Oh, fuck yes. Oh, I need to pee so badly. I firmly believe that you show yourself who you are. You can think yourself out of a lot of things and maybe think yourself into believing a lot of things about yourself, but when you show yourself, when you do it physically, when you prove to yourself that you're capable of things that you didn't think you were, that is how you get over those fears. I remember I was oh my god. Well, no, you can't be singing while I'm talking. But I was an industrial chemist at this job, and, you know, I took the job specifically because I was bad, like being in the lab, and like I had to go to these chlorine plants and all this stuff and do really scary shit with heaps of metal and like things that could kill you, and gases and like high pressure equipment and flammable stuff and things that explode, and just like, you know, drill presses and like heaps of, like, you had to saw wood, go to Bunnings, get the wood. I didn't know, I went to Bunnings once and I was like, I don't know what kind of wood I'm after. My boss just said to get like this. I was like, can you draw a diagram and some measurements? He was like, yo, you should know how to do this. I was like, well, I'll learn. And take that to Bunnings, yeah, just give me wood anyway. And I had to do experiments on like how fast screws corroded and stuff like that. But I specifically took it because it was outside my comfort zone, and I was like, I need to train my weaknesses, because my strengths, like I'm pretty confident in my strengths and what my strengths are now. But I remember I was like doing this drill press one day and stuff, and I just like, my boss, well, he came up to me and he was watching me, and he was this big PhD Italian man, and like he worked for the military, like he did nuclear chemistry for the military or something, and he came up behind me and he was just like watching over the shoulder. He didn't say hello, he just used his hands like and I'm like trying to like use the drill press and screw it in and stuff, and I remember he was just like, he stopped it and he was like, don't be scared of it. And like, I don't know, when he said that, I was like kind of pissed off, because I was like, yeah, I'm not scared. But then I was kind of like, the next time I tried, I did sort of push past that fear and just like went for it, and it all worked out fine, and it turns out that was the right and probably safest thing to do with it. But he was not a very nice man. But whenever something feels uncomfortable, as shit as it is and as shit as it always will be, you can sort of remind yourself that I'm learning. Like, no matter what, I'm always learning something. Whoa, dude, whoa, see? If you swallow knives every a few hours every day, you'll probably have the confidence of this man to, no, don't swallow knives. But you can definitely bet this isn't his first time doing it. Like, he's deep-throating that like a pro. But yeah, I've noticed that I use uncomfort to sort of equate or be synonymous in my mind with not correct or not right, like this isn't something I should be doing, or like I'm uncomfortable. And there is a sort of gut feeling that you should always listen to, but the more you test that, I think the finer the boundary becomes, the more defined, so you know when you actually should be panicking or being uncomfortable, or when you're unnecessarily doing that, or it's a habit or just something that you need to untrain. Because of course, like, uploading YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff is extremely uncomfortable to me, but I also find it exhilarating and fun, and I'm really happy with the product. Like, even I'm just proud to be doing something that I want to do, and just not really giving it my all. I could probably be doing a lot better, but I'm trying. And, you know, you'll never trust that you can stand up for yourself until you start standing up for yourself, and that starts with one awkward try where you sound like a dick or whatever, but that's not a reason to be like, oh, I'm just not meant for this and whatever, and just start to be submissive and complicit again and not stand up for yourself. Like, the more that you try, the better you get, the more comfortable it is, and then you can change your approaches to it too, because you usually start out too aggressive or whatever. It just doesn't come out the way because you've never done it before, so who knows? You've got to try different things. But uncomfortable becomes more comfortable the more you do it. And I think that is the true way to build an identity, and because you build it by trusting yourself. And trusting yourself is extremely important in a way that you do sort of are able to let go and be yourself, because you don't have to worry so much about what you're doing, what you look like, all that kind of thing. Or, you know, what's going to happen if I go into the supermarket, like, and I'm stoned or something. Like, you just trust yourself. I've been doing this for 28 years. I've never really had a problem, and everything turns out fine. And in fact, usually I have fun. I have fun even though I was stressing. So why was I stressing? The stressing made it less fun. I could have been having heaps of fun. Well, anyway, there you go. I found a video. Mental health whilst playing Elder Scrolls.